This is my podcast series Kickoff, and I'm excited to introduce you to folks from the design community this year. Today, we're talking with Taylor Parker, an architectural designer working at the intersection of the built environment and the space industry. In addition to working for award-winning architecture firms, she's a former designer for SpaceX, entrepreneur, and adjunct professor. Taylor is working with a team to develop ASTRAEUS, a phased modular mixed-use campus concept that blends an architecture and aerospace integrated studio with labs, flexible workspaces, and public-facing elements designed to accelerate experimentation, collaboration, and resilient, future-ready design. We'll get into what ASTRAEUS is, why it matters right now, what architecture can learn from aerospace systems thinking, and how climate, innovation, and AI are reshaping both industries.
All right, thanks.
So, what is ASTRAEUS and what key problem do you feel it solves?
ASTRAEUS will be a phased modular mixed-use campus near the growing innovative corridor of Temple, Texas, designed to bridge architecture and aerospace through real-world experimentation. The simplest way to say it is, it's a place where ideas don't just stay in slides or renderings. Ideas become realities. Teams can prototype, test, refine, and translate concepts into built work and deployable systems, all in one convenient place. The problem it solves is a gap I see in both industries. In architecture, we're often pushed by schedule, liability, and procurement to prioritize delivery over experimentation. In aerospace, teams are incredibly rigorous, but the environments we're ultimately designing for, human-centered spaces, habitats, resilient infrastructure, require more integrative spatial thinking and human factors than we typically build into the process. ASTRAEUS creates a physical ecosystem for that intersection, an integrated design studio linked to material exploration and fabrication, flexible co-working and collaboration space, and public-facing program that makes innovation visible and sustainable. So it's not co-working space with cool branding, and it's not just a lab, it's a platform for systems thinking, requirements, constraints, verification, maintainability, while still protecting what architecture does best: meaning, experience, beauty, and human comfort.
What's the origin story? Like, what made you decide I'm building this?
Many people don't know this about me, but my background is not only in architecture, but also business. My master's degree is in entrepreneurship and innovative leadership. When I originally thought about this many years ago, I thought of it more like a community makerspace that blended science and research. A much smaller scale and much smaller impacts as a result. As I evolved and became exposed to new fields and identified more lucrative opportunities, I could see the potential for doing something much more innovative and expansive from both design and business perspectives. At its core, this isn't a new idea to have a mixed-use facility or integrated studios, but the concept is radically different in its functionality and implementation. The origin story for this iteration in particular is really a collision of two realizations. First, as an architectural designer, I kept feeling like the built environment is being asked to respond to extreme change, climate volatility, resource constraints, rapid technology shifts, but our process still behaves like the world is stable. Second, when I started spending more time around aerospace thinking when I worked for SpaceX, systems engineering, testing culture, human factors, I noticed something vitally important. Aerospace accepts that the environment is hostile and constraints are absolute. And that mindset is increasingly relevant on Earth now. Excessive heat and drought, catastrophic storms, flooding, earthquakes, insurance retreat, grid instability, those are constraints whether we like them or not. Then there's the personal element. I wanted a place where interdisciplinary people actually coexist in meaningful ways, not just surface-level networking, but real integrative collaboration, where an architect can sit with an engineer, a materials person, a fabrication tech, and a sustainability specialist, and quickly move from what if to let's test it. Subject matter experts can compare notes and solve complex problems with ease, where real estate could be leveraged from the ground up, from concept to completion, without ever having to leave the site. After speaking with other professionals across disciplines and comparing notes, ASTRAEUS became the answer. A campus that's not just a building, but a platform built to support experimentation without needing a giant institution to make it legitimate.
You have frequently referred to this as a sort of campus. Break down the campus like a system for us, components, uses, and how they interact.
I think of ASTRAEUS as a system with linked loops: design, prototype, test, refine, communicate. On one end of the building, the real estate portion serves as the gateway. Clients are aided in identifying and procuring sites, research and conceptual design are initiated, and there are opportunities to take it further dynamically, or that may serve as the endpoint for that leg of their journey. There also will be an option for CA for this portion. On the opposite side of the building is the Architecture and Aerospace Integrated Studio. That's where teams form, requirements get defined, and concepts get further developed depending on the scope. This isn't to say that this is a more important component than others in the building, but it serves as a gateway for the aerospace focus. The key to this structure is that all businesses are uniquely identified and hold their own degrees of ownership. We just work together in an integrated design approach methodology, but there is flexibility for growth. Everyone on some level is a stakeholder and carries a level of responsibility. It was something I greatly admired about SpaceX when I worked there, as most disciplines were in-house, and the ease of access and problem solving was extremely productive in most cases. This is a bit different, of course, but still reflects the same spirit of collaboration in real time. But what makes this different from a traditional integrated structure is what it touches. Adjacent are lab spaces, like a biophilic test lab and material exploration, because sustainability and resilience aren't just aesthetic, but should also be intrinsic to projects. They're performance questions: thermal comfort, air quality, durability, material health. Then you have the making layer, a makerspace with 3D printing and fabrication capabilities, because even small prototypes teach you things drawings can't: assembly, complexity, tolerances, maintenance access, and how humans actually interact with the system. Later phases would potentially include component manufacturing facilities to further refine design and production. Having modular spaces that build upon one another can allow for long-term adaptable growth. And to keep the campus economically and culturally alive, there's real life. Flexible co-working, shared conference spaces, and flex offices for calls, on-site acute healthcare, a gym, and a coffee and grab-and-go market/test kitchen concept that creates daily rhythm and accessibility. Plentiful outdoor workspace options to unwind a bit on nice weather days and enhance the quality of life for employees. Finally, the human-centered layer: temporary tiny home-style habitats or residences for visiting collaborators, and outdoor spaces for restoration and reflection. So the system works like this. Teams develop in the studio, prototype in the lab, test and refine, and the campus structure supports that with community energy and real-world feedback.
Why phased and modular? And what does each phase prove?
Phasing and modularity are both strategy and philosophy. Strategy reduces risk. Philosophy matches how innovation actually works. Phase 1 proves traction and utility. Can we create a working nucleus, studio, co-working, basic prototyping, where people collaborate, produce outcomes in return? Phase 2 deepens capability. More specialized labs, stronger fabrication, and intentional residency programming. So ASTRAEUS can host longer engagements, research sprints, prototype cycles, and measurable outputs. Phase 3 scales the ecosystem. Expanded test zones, public-facing components, and deeper research capacity, turning this campus into a durable platform, not a one-off. The gates between phases are practical: community adoption, revenue stability, partnership commitments, and maintaining quality and safety. And modularity matters because it keeps the campus adaptable. If a lab needs to become something else in 5 years, the architecture shouldn't fight that. It should be ideally able to shift and transform to suit future needs within its original framework, while being able to expand for new uses.
Where is architecture and aerospace overlap actually productive?
It's productive when you focus on systems, humans, and constraints. Aerospace is excellent at requirements. What must the system do, under what conditions, and with what failure tolerance? Architecture sometimes struggles with that discipline because we're balancing subjective inputs, but the built environment is increasingly high constraint: energy, carbon, safety, climate costs, for example. On the flip side, architecture brings time-tested data to what aerospace is still in the fledgling phases of discovering: human experience across time. Buildings and habitats aren't just machines. They're environments where identity, comfort, mental health, and community are formed. Where it becomes especially powerful would be within the human factors: maintenance, ergonomics, and how people behave under stress. The best solution isn't always the most elegant technically. It's the one people can use, repair, and trust over long durations, though. So the overlap isn't space aesthetics. It's aerospace helping architecture become more verifiable and resilient, and architecture helping aerospace become more humane and livable. So it's a very reciprocal relationship in that respect.
Part of your focus is on resilient architecture design for extreme environments. What does extreme environment design teach us about Earth buildings?
Great question. Extreme environment design teaches you to treat comfort and survival as performance, not simply quantified metrics. In space, you can't dismiss energy, air, water, or thermal stability. Those are non-negotiables. And that mindset is increasingly relevant on Earth as climate volatility rises. In my mind, 3 principles transfer well. First, redundancy and passive survivability. What happens when power goes down, HVAC fails, or outdoor air isn't healthy? Catastrophe potentially, right? Building envelope performance, shading, passive strategies, those become safety features. The second principle would be maintainability. Aerospace designs obsess over access and replacement because maintenance is mission critical and can be significantly difficult. Buildings often hide complexity until something fails. Design for serviceability isn't glamorous, but it's foundational sustainability. Third would be human factors, of course. Light quality, privacy, noise, and social connection can make or break long duration well-being. Resilience isn't only mechanical. It's mental and social too. And although some of us can exist with limited interaction with our fellow humans, the majority can't exist in a vacuum for too long without some degree of mental or emotional damage to the nervous system, the impacts of which can be terminal. So the takeaway is extreme environment thinking turns architecture into a measured, human-centered performance discipline without removing beauty, but it does give beauty a backbone.
You've highlighted some similarities in both industries. What is one aerospace best practice to import into AEC tomorrow?
Good question. I would import a stronger culture of verification tied to requirements, not just coordination. In aerospace, you don't only ask, is it consistent? You ask, did it meet the requirement under defined conditions? And there's a cadence of reviews that forces clarity. Requirements review, preliminary design review, critical design review, test readiness review. I mean, that's just for starters, really. Some may complain that there are too many reviews, but safety is of the utmost importance. Conversely, in AEC, our reviews are often driven by deliverables and deadlines. Because liability is high, we can default to minimum compliance instead of deeper innovation. There's more emphasis on speed than quality in many instances, even with proper QA/QC protocols in place. What we need is a normal, industry-wise performance-ready review. Not just are the drawings coordinated, but will this building remain safe and habitable if X happens? Do the energy and comfort claims have evidence? Will this withstand the test of time? I mean, even as simple as, is this built to the best possible standard and quality? If we did that consistently, we'd reduce change orders and long-term failures. And we'd make innovation safer because it's anchored to verifiable proof, not just what is historically or professionally evident.
So what about the current state of architecture? Like, what's working? What's broken?
What's working is awareness. Architecture is more conscious than ever of carbon, equity, resilience, and health. And there's real progress in integrated workflows and performance thinking. What's broken, though, is the mismatch between the complexity of problems and the structure of incentives. Fee pressure is real. Schedules are compressed. Liability pushes teams towards conservative, field-rendered patterns instead of verified innovation. Procurement often rewards lowest cost and speed, not long-term performance. This is unfortunate because it causes many problems over time. We also have a pipeline challenge. Licensure is long and nebulous. Policies are constantly shifting and not in favor of the profession generally. Workload can be intense and markets unpredictable. And early career designers don't always get enough exposure to the business and operational realities that shape projects. These factors can negatively impact very good entry-level designers who need the mentorship that there is often little time for in the fast pace of the industry. It is chaotic at best at most firms. And climate adds urgency. The biggest opportunity is often retrofit and operations, but the industry still celebrates new build narratives. I feel like a hypocrite for needing to do new build, but we are definitely still investigating options for adaptive reuse and temple. Yet I'm optimistic because practice models are evolving. Design build hybrids, modular delivery, partnerships with manufacturers, performance contracting, and ASTRAEUS is aligned with that future.
Along the same lines, what about the current state of the space industry? What's new versus hype? Do you think there are some bottlenecks there too?
What feels genuinely new is the normalization of iteration in a broader ecosystem of players. There's a cultural shift toward more faster prototyping and more frequent testing, and growth in satellite sensing communications and dual-use technology that affects Earth systems. But hype still exists, especially when space is framed as an escape hatch from Earth problems. The reality is physics and economics don't care about the story. Most progress is incremental and built on reliability. Different bottlenecks, but same story. The bottlenecks here are often unglamorous: manufacturing scale and quality control, supply chain fragility, workforce specialization, test infrastructure,